evening happening.
It's one of those things where there's so much rich history and so much about it. You can imagine that when I was walking that palatial estate, and again, I tripped on a boulder. This boulder was a note written to it, and the note read, Rob, can you imagine the notes reading? Give me your thoughts. It said, so take these broken wings and learn to fly again. Learn to live so free when we can hear the voices sing. The book of love will open up and let us in. Do you have any idea what that possibly means?
No, I don't. But I gotta say, your delivery of that note, it made me feel like as if you had a keytar.
Thank you.
And
I don't know how it would work. I don't know what it is, Mr. Rob, but we're gonna keep on going and let's see what happens. So please let us know in the comments below. Do you know what this is? What kind of clues Vanus is leaving behind? Do you know what's going on?
Strange individual.
It's clearly eluding me. Thank you, everyone, for joining us for the Heroes World Quarantine podcast. I am one of your hosts, Stupe. With me are one of the owners and proprietors of Heroes World, that be Mr. John Ho. Please say hello to the people at home.
Hello, people at home.
Perfect. And with our resident Prince of Mischief, Mr. Rob Cadet.
Hello, everybody. Hey, I've got an announcement to make.
Yes.
Please, do tell.
So who was lucky enough to score a PlayStation 5 the other day? This guy right
Whoa.
here. It's
You got the new tech. Did they just announce a price hike?
No. You know what I did? So let me just say, my son has been like trying to get me one for like the past 8 months. Mommy, can we get? No, we don't. You know, and it's been so whatever. So I followed a Twitter feed. It was PS5 Restock Canada.
Yep. Good
and
call.
then I put the notification on. So anytime they send a tweet out, I get notification. So I also did it for Walmart Gaming. Anyways, yesterday, guys, I'm on vacation. I'm lying on the couch in the backyard. I'm reading a book, and my phone goes off. Bing, like that. I was like, what the hell was that? I take a look. 2 notifications on Twitter. Boom, 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 boom. Your boy, flew in there. I was like, flew in like Fletch. Got that. Put it through. Boom. So now.
My follow-up question is, which PlayStation did you get? Do you get the Drive or
PlayStation 3?
The disc.
No. Oh.
Whoops.
I got the disc. I got it with the. Yeah, which I would say when I've gone to GameStop with EB Games, I say, hey, do you guys have the optical drive? And they go, what's an optical drive? And I'm like, how do you not know what an optical drive is? But yes, I got the one with the disc, not the.
You had the thing to put the thing in the thing.
Here's the funny thing. We had that mega D&D draft before, and everyone was like, you know what? I really enjoy not owning physical discs. Why have it? Because it doesn't matter. Why have discs? Everything be digital. And now we've learned a lesson. HBO Max has shown us, no, it doesn't survive forever. They can take that crap away, and all of it will disappear.
Right.
Shows, content. Nope, we're not paying for it anymore. We're just gonna bury it into the WB vault and give you no access to it. So
yeah, and let me tell you something. I've bought lots of movies through iTunes, and I swear to God, I'm going through my library. I'm like, I swear I had this movie, and like Kaiser Soze. Just disappeared. I don't know what's happened. So,
rights, man. You own the right to it. Yeah, it's you own the right to borrow. It's one of those things where physical media is nice, and theoretically, you have control of it. But I think at this time point, we've seen already through acquisition and mergers, it's better safe if you really want something, because you never know what's going to happen. Especially we saw it with Nintendo, that the gong that happens there, it's like, oh, I'll buy this game, and then Nintendo, the digital, online's like, yeah, actually, we're taking that down, and you're not gonna have it. What about all this money I put in this Wii? Don't worry about it.
Yeah, just sorry, it was never here.
Just like Kaiser Soze, just gone in a flash. So, anyways, that's our old man rant. Buy physical if you can. Good. Enjoy. We are here to talk about a little TV show called House of the Dragon, the highly anticipated prequel to Game of Thrones. based on the numbers of people watching that show on the weekend, it was the highest viewed HBO show of all time. About 10 million plus watched it legally.
It crashed the shit, right?
It crashed the site. There were many like Twitter videos / TikTok of like, I saw the one that I like. My favorite one was someone was outside of an apartment building filming. I think it was darkness, all the lights flashing at the same time. And there was basically like 15 rooms all watch. You could see they were all watching the same thing, and you could see all the lights like in like coordination. And he's like, "Oh, these people watching Game of Thrones." Awesome. So that was great.
Except for that one room where nothing was working.
Yeah. On top of that, you know, the downloads have been frantic. A lot of people that couldn't get it through legitimate means. I think Game of Thrones has now jumped back to the most pirated show and you know, in the television airwaves. So it's back. So if you have not watched it, it's okay. Join us in this journey. We have some veterans who have read the books, some people that know nothing, and Rob, where he's probably a mixture of all of us.
Right. Some people have read the books, some people know nothing, and then we have Rob.
We have Rob, who's a wild card mixture of everything, because we 100% know John has read nothing. So we're gonna go through
the game. I've read the gaming cards for the game.
You painted miniatures. Can you remind us what house you chose, just so we can make fun of you again when you played the Game of Thrones miniatures?
I played the what's it called, the neutral house, which is who's it got on it again?
Hufflepuff.
John, they were not neutral. They were bad men.
Yeah. What are they called? They wore people's skins and stuff like that. I don't know. I don't remember what they're called. No, wrong show.
And we're not the free folk. No,
House Buffalo Bill. What are you?
Okay, John. Yeah. So let's just say you picked a species.
Ramsey. Who's Ramsey's house or whatever?
Oh God.
Baratheon.
No. That was Ramsey was Bolton.
Bolton, yeah, the Bolton. Yeah. I remember. I used to sing the Michael Bolton song. This is the tale. This is the tale.
That's Lord of.
And I was like, these are good guys, right? And my buddy's like, no,
no, they are bad people. That House Bolton are bad people. You picked the bad.
Wait a minute. We just missed an important Easter egg that just happened here, Stu.
What?
This guy was just dropping musical cues from Michael Bolton. Vanished. Often drops
Michael Bolton songs.
I don't think Michael Bolton has been dropped once, so we'll keep an eye on that. I think so far it's been relative obscure one-hit wonders, big hits,
and Steve Winwood.
Yes, it's things. Rems. Anyway, so we're gonna get into our thoughts on this. So, John, as we go through, what is your relationship with Game of Thrones? Did you read the books? Did you watch the show? Did you play the mobile video game? What do you know about Game of Thrones? What is your relationship?
I'm like I don't know what you define it as, like adjacent to the show. So I enjoyed the things that came from this property. So
as a retailer, yes, you're enjoying the things you sell.
The Game of Thrones miniature game, which is actually, I guess, based on the book continuity. It's not based off the TV show. And then even you remember the Fantasy Flight Game of Thrones board game, which is also based off the book stuff. So I never really got like into the show, and I think I only watched, I want to say 3 episodes of the first season, and that's about as far as I got into it, and I never got back to it. I have sold Jon Snow's sword and other things like that at the shop, but I never got into it. So I'm coming in this totally new.
Rob, how about you?
I was very much aware of George R.R. Martin's books leading up to the show. I feel like it was 2016 is when the Game of Thrones dropped, but I never read them. And I'll be honest with you, because I generally that genre is not really my genre. Lord of the Rings aside, even me, I tried reading those books and I was like, I found it to be boring. Enjoyed the movies. So I came into this kind of with like a cursory understanding of this world, but zero knowledge until the series. And I've watched Game of Thrones seasons 1 to 6, like a couple of times each, and then 7 and 8 maybe once each. Yeah.
One.
No, get to this. This is just laying the context for people at home. What our knowledge base is. The sword in question, John, is Longclaw, who is Valyrian steel, of course, given to him by
By the keeper of the it was
given by the Night Watch, and belonged to God, the names have already escaped me. All the characters' names from the last show have already basically jumped out of my name. It
appeared on Big Bang Theory. I think Sheldon had it up on the door right in his apartment.
Yes,
so you've seen that sword. I had that, and then
it belonged originally to Sir Jorah Mormont, who then gave it back to his father because Mormont, who ruled the little island off, essentially he bought some slaves and basically dishonored his family and was cast out of his family then as a disgraced knight. And then his father, because he didn't have a son anymore, decided to volunteer himself to the Night's Watch and became Lord of the Night's Watch, and then basically took Longclaw with him, and for Jon Snow to eventually take that sword of Valyrian steel. So, and then the pommel was a bear originally, and they repurposed it to put a wolf on it, dire wolf. So they're, Jorah Mormont for all you folks at home. All right, let's
animal.
Yeah, I just for context read the books. I got a book of the book from the Meisters as a gift. Shout out to, I think Mark got it for me. And I know some of it. I have not read the book Fire and Blood, which George R.R. Martin essentially based this book on, the Targaryens' rise. So I do, again, the names are always like escape me. I'm not good with names. So I do remember parts of it, but again, the names are always escaping me. So this show, of course, is based on that book. It takes place many, many years, 125 years of something about that before the story. Yeah, before the story of Game of Thrones, the show that I think we'll have mixed feelings about.
So there will be no cameos, is what you were saying.
No. We'll quickly before that, Rob. Before we jump quickly, because John, you haven't seen it. You've watched the entire thing, Rob. What was your feeling after the completion of Game of Thrones, the television show?
So I really enjoyed the TV show. Like, for me to go back and rewatch those seasons over and over again, like, I really enjoyed it. Obviously, as the seasons went on, the spectacle of it was just like unparalleled to what was on TV around that time. But I was glad it was over. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I felt like the story had come to its conclusion. Part of me thought they probably could have finished in season 7, to be honest with you. Like, I felt like there's a lot of fillers, but I was happy that it came to its conclusion. There's a lot of people who hated the last season. I mean, I don't hate it. I just recognize it wasn't as good as, like, a couple of seasons prior. But I liked it. I enjoyed it overall. Like, it's funny. I was thinking before, I was like, would I put this up there in my echelon of TV series? Like, I'm a huge fan, guys. We talked about this: West Wing, Lost, Deadwood. Like, and I would probably put it up there as something that, is one of my. I probably, having been away from it now, respect it a lot more than I probably did. But yeah, I would, like, right now, I would want to go back and rewatch that show because of what I saw in this new series.
So for the home, that is the context of how we feel. For me personally, I had concerns because I knew how long George R.R. Martin takes to make these books. I was like, oh yeah, in the beginning of the show, I'm like, great, it'll be no problem. He'll be done by the time they get to season 7. Incorrect. So my theory about the show was always, like, I always was tell my wife, I'm like, you should watch this, my wife, that this is great. And then by the end of the series, I'm like, you know what, you dodged a bullet. You shouldn't watch this show. Don't even bother. It's not something you need to do. I do not recommend the show up until about season 5, and then I'm like, once she gets on that boat, and I'm like, great, show's over. Like, that's all I need to know.
Wow, really?
Just imagine the story ends right there, and then that's it. Because once that boat happens, that's as far as it is in the books, and everything else is complete deviation of everything else. Already, they're amalgamating characters. They're doing a bunch of things that you're just like, oh, okay. And George R. R. Martin's already said, hey, by the way, the books are gonna be different than the TV show, because he's now distancing himself, because as we know, this TV show ends in for spoilers in a certain way that many fans like myself were displeased about, just hate watching the last season or half of the season with a bleeding fire and passion. So I definitely hated every moment of it, and I was very trepidatious about watching this show, because at the end of the day, does this show really matter? Because we know who ends up on the throne at the end, and we're like, great, this womp womp. But nonetheless,
you must watch TV. Like, everyone be like, you must watch this. You must watch this.
It's
it's a POS. Like
well,
that's crazy.
it's I think as Rob mentioned it is a cultural touchstone. It's, at one point, Breaking Bad, Mad Men, The Wire. These are these touchstone shows that the wonderful thing about them, and what it's the magic that's missing, and that's why I think Disney Plus is doing these one episodes releases, that when you do it, you build up that conversation, the thought process, the fact that people can come up with crazy ideas and rumors and build up these message boards and the following. When you drop it all at once, it's kind of in the zeitgeist so quickly, in and out, that you're like, oh, well, we're good. It's one of those things where you're not really building up the commentary and anticipation of it. And Game of Thrones is one of those shows that it builds slowly, and this show itself is setting up the pieces of a world that a lot of us already know, and we're all sitting there going, this is a Charlie Brown situation. You've already pulled a football on us. Let's see what happens now. So that's where we're at. So that took me a long time to get to it, but that's just to give you the baggage that goes along with this show. It's not something where a lot of us, outside of John, who has no idea what's going on, which is kind of the perfect person to watch it. Rob, you're also good litmus for someone who didn't read the books and didn't know that stuff. And then there's the curmudgeon like me, who's like, man, it was really off. And
get off my throne.
Really unhappy with how that bad boy ended. So there's just a lot of questionable things. Because the buildup was there, and it never really paid off. It, unfortunately for me, had a lot of lost moments where I'm like, you're building, and then forgot this storyline, forgot what that happened. Let's just carry on. We got to go back to the island. And you're like, okay, sure, why not? So, John, give us your general thoughts on this episode, because, again, you've only watched 3 episodes of Game of Thrones, one of the most expensive television shows that, because they know they have to. So tell us your thoughts on episode 1 of House of the Dragon.
Yeah. So I always want to like stuff like this, but sometimes it just becomes a little too long in the tooth and things like that. But for this, coming in fresh, and the fact that it is a prequel, but I don't know anything about what happens in the main event, and the fact that it's so far, like two centuries, 200 whatever years before it, I think they picked a good timing for it, because you can play around with a lot, and you still kind of, there's still suspense to it. So overall, you can see, like Stu said, how much money is spent on this show, and I was like, wow, because I think Game of Thrones was the I don't know if it was the beginning, but it was certainly the cementing of this whole idea of prestige TV. And this episode, I think it goes in at like 66 minutes or whatever like that, and it did feel like, to me, a mini movie. It kind of had that perfect length that it wasn't like, oh, I'm watching a full movie, and it wasn't too short that I was like, oh, that was a little taste of something. It did feel like I got a whole movie, like a piece of a movie, and I was pretty satisfied at the end. So I'm pretty happy with it, and I think I will continue watching it. And I do want to see more of this world. I don't know if it is enough to motivate me to watch 7 seasons with a terrible payoff, according to everybody else. But I'm along for this ride so far.
Rob, yourself?
It's interesting because HBO was quick to rush into production a different pilot with Naomi Watts, and they filmed it, and then they the precursor to Batgirl, they shelved it, and nobody saw it, and then they came out with this one, and so during the course of this show, I was like wondering, I wonder what the other one would have been like. And it's interesting because have you guys ever gone back to a house that you used to live in? And it's like it's familiar, but now there's somebody else in it, and it's like it's all different, but there's some familiarity to it. And
You're supposed to give the key back after you sell the house.
no, but like everyone, like, you know, invite you back in, and you're like, hey, you left your sex toys, and so
what's this weird room?
yeah, and so I've you know, I kind of felt like I walked into it, and I was like, this seems familiar, but it's all different, right? And I think for the first little bit of the show, I was a little bit apprehensive about just letting it all go, because it does come with such a vast amount of history in my head. At the end of the day, though, I enjoyed it for what it was. I don't know. I was going back and forth. I don't know if I'm going to like this. It's not too bad. I don't know if I'm going to like this. Hey, it looks like it's going to be okay. So there are moments at the show I'm like, oh, man, that seems so familiar. And admittedly, Stu, I was comparing this to the first episode of Game of Thrones, which I got to say is probably far superior, right, than this one. So because it didn't rely on special effects. It relied on story and on the delivery of lines, that first episode of the original series. So all that to say is I enjoyed this probably more than I expected to, but it's definitely not a home run for me as of right now. But I will definitely be continuing to watch on a weekly basis.
I think I push back on you a little bit, Rob, on that one.
No, don't push back on me. I'll push back on you.
Easy, cousin Larry.
Don't be ridiculous.
I have to say that this show really rewards you, this particular pilot, for paying attention to the foreshadowing.
Right.
If you really watch the show, you see, you know already that the House of Targaryen does fall, and that like there's all the lead up to, oh, you know, Valerius talking about this and Varys talking about that, and the house, you know, they talk about, you know, the song of Fire and Ice. So just little things, if you're paying attention to the show, it already is forecasting what to anticipate this season to be. And I think that, you know, there are interesting pieces. I mean, I'll go into the spoiler section because I think that if you don't want to know, you don't want to know. But I think it does a really good job of laying the crumbs down. I think as much as I enjoy the shock of the ending of that first episode of Game of Thrones, this has its own shocking moments, and you're like, whoa, what's going on? And I think one of the big pieces was, I think in these books, the Game of Thrones books, that people need to understand, whether you read them or listen to the book on tape, all these books of George R.R. Martin writes it is in the first person, and it's them narrating their experience and what they hear and what they think. All these books are based off of someone's opinion, so you have no idea what's going on, because it's very much like, this is what the Maester wrote, and the Maester is someone who could be swayed or could have different opinions. So even in the original that book, which Fire and Blood, is written by a Maester, who is apparently the it's the guys that wear the chains around their neck. They wear robes, and each chain that they wear, it's like Boy Scouts. You get one chain for like medicine. You get one chain for like strategy. So basically every time you master a knowledge base, you get a little little
heavy shit around your neck.
Yeah. You could also say, like, if you have a young daughter out there, it's those bracelet pieces. What are those things that you put on, like little
the charms?
Charms you can buy for your wrist. It's like, oh yeah, you learned how to ride a horse, so you get a little horse bracelet or charm. So that is the Maesters from that, and they all go to a sigil, and they basically learn. So all these books are based on that. So and I think this episode really shines that example of what is to come is basically based on, we don't even know whether a character said anything or not. This is all based on hearsay. So wars have been started based on a situation of like, what did you say? And we'll go into that momentarily. So, John, out of a score of 1 to 10, what are you giving this episode of House of the Dragon?
House of the Dragon, as far as this fantasy genre is concerned, and the fact that it can keep me
This
entertained
episode,
for 66 minutes or whatever like that, I'll give it, because there's so much on the screen. There's so much money on the screen. So I feel like that does not fail to impress. Look at Rob smiling. He's like, "Are you going to give it a 10?" No, I'm not going to give it a 10.
I know you're not. Really... You're going to give it a 9, aren't you?
No, I'm going to give it an 8, which I feel like maybe I could be a little bit harder on it, but I think it did. It entertained me for those 66 minutes, which is kind of long for a show nowadays. So I'll give it a solid 8.
Rob?
7.5.
You guys. Wow.
Are you giving it a 6?
I'm giving it a 9.
Giving it a
from
9?
someone who did not like the last season, I thoroughly enjoyed this episode, because for me, it's like they're not tethered by what happens in those other books. Theoretically, anyone anywhere can die at any point in time. I'm like, cool. Like, it doesn't really matter. Like, I know, for example, that the House Stark won't disappear, because some of these houses will always be around. But I do like the fact that that they get to a little more freedom and runway. It's kind of what we all wanted the Star Wars movies to be. It just a little farther away, so you can kind of tell your own story and not be tethered.
They've distanced themselves so much that anything can happen, and it can be like undone. It can be like redone.
Yeah, it's
before the events of what we know to pass.
Yeah, it's kind of what the perfect situation would have been with Cade Skywalker, just a guy that's several generations removed from Luke, who's just trying to do his own thing in a galaxy far, far away, and you don't have to have Luke Skywalker there. If you do, you can have him as a Force ghost.
Force ghost, yeah.
Force ghost. But
they went forward.
I digress.
Star Wars Legion or Legend or Legends or whatever it was called. Legacy. Star Wars Legacy was ahead. They've gone the other or opposite direction, which I think is fine. I did like that you don't have to follow storylines of all the different houses. You're just in Targaryen.
Yet.
Okay. I was going to say, is it going to get more complicated?
No, you're going to get there, buddy. You're going to get there. This was one of those, the true thing of Game of Thrones is that if you watch the episodes, John, of Game of Thrones, before we jump spoilers, is that when you watch the intro, the game board that pops up in 3D, it shows you all the iconography of the land. So you know where these episodes are going to take place. You're like, oh, here we're in Westeros. Oh no, we're in Dorne. Oh no, we're in Easteros. Like it shows you the little bit of like terrain. So when you're watching the show, you can map it out in your brain where everything is on this map. So it is that I do like how King Viserys had his own little. I guess we would make fun of the train model guys where he had his own little city built.
Oh, that thing was crazy. He was like carving it out of like, I don't know what that material was, but I was pretty impressed by the size, like the look of it. I was like, that's cool.
Probably sandstone or something.
Yeah, that's his homeland before it melted down with volcano and lava, and they left their land because of one of their family members had a dream that this island oasis basically was going to burn down, and they're like, yeah, we got to get out of here. Everyone's like, you guys are stupid, this place is perfect. And just that future foreseen and like Star Wars, they're very much into visions and vision quests. So that led to the whole land burning down, and thus they're the only dragon riders and people of this left that can speak Valyrian / fly dragons. So great, John.
The hairs, and yet the darkest brown eyebrows. Right.
It's all that incest, Rob. It's all that incest. It's what it is. You got to keep that line pure. All right, let's go into spoilers, John. Throw up the tag, and we're gonna go into it. Awesome. For those of you who haven't seen it, I think half an hour in, so good on you. So now we're spoilers and going to thoughts. John, give us your gimmick, your David Letterman top 10.
Your Game of John.
Damon John, you're
like usual. I'm gonna leave all the heavy lifting to you guys because there's a lot going on in this first 66-minute episode. There's a lot going on. There is a jousting event, which is pretty awesome. The likes of which we haven't seen since
Game of Thrones season 2.
Oh, Game of Thrones season 2. I was gonna say that Heath Ledger movie, First Night. It's not, but it's not First Night. What's it called? First Night is that Sean Connery one.
Yes, Sean Connery and Richard Gere movie.
Yeah, what is the Heath Ledger one? Something, A Knight's Tale. Not since Knight's Tale have we seen such spectacular
with Robert Baratheon as one of the squires. Yeah.
But so shout outs to that. So if you want to see some jousting action, that was probably my favorite point of the episode. But I decided to just pick 3 very disturbing things that happened in this episode because of course we know this is HBO Max, or I don't know what you would call it, but this is
just HBO. Just HBO.
They got to add the nudity, they got to add the gore, and the violence and all that kind of stuff. So 3 most disturbing things about the episode. Number whatever. The
number
scene.
Whatever. What
number whatever? I don't know if I can put these in order.
3 things, guys. Number whatever.
3.
Number
3,
square. Number square.
And this should jump up to number 1 because it's so disturbing. And when I talked to other people, they were like, "Yeah, I couldn't watch the scene either." This is the birthing scene. I actually had to kind of fast forward through it a little bit. I was like, I don't think I can do this. So I hit fast forward a little bit on that. The birthing scene, very graphic, very crazy, lots of blood going on, and you kind of know what's going on, so it's extra disturbing. Number 2, when I forgot what they're called, but they start storming the city to punish all the evil elements. And there's a bunch of stuff that happens. Criminals get their hands chopped off, rapists get other things chopped off, and some people lose their tops. So there's a whole bunch of stuff going on. So you will not be unentertained if you're into the gore and violence. And then the most disturbing thing about the episode is when I believe the guy's name is like Hightower. I don't know if it's like a reference to Police Academy or not.
No, it's part of the house. Shut up. Yes.
But there's one point where he sends his daughter to try and go sleep with the king. That was hella disturbing. She's like, he's good. Go keep him company. And she's like, oh, okay. And then he's like, yeah, put on your mom's dress. And it's like, oh my God, what is this guy doing? And then she's smart enough to go, I brought a book.
He's the hand of the king, John. He knows what's going on, as well as he's also ready to.
Yeah, I don't know what play that is in chess, but that was very disturbing to me.
He is also ready to turn into the lizard at any moment in time. So this is another thing that happens. But it is of that ilk and that timeline. So it's funny because, to your point, John, these best friends were chatting, and then it's like within a blink of an eye, your good friend becomes your stepmom. Whew, that's a big situation. So
some weird goings on, and shout outs to I did like this. I don't remember the Prince Damon, who's played by Matt Smith. Yeah, who you guys probably know from some really good stuff. I only know this guy from Terminator Genesis and Morbius. That's where I know this guy from. But so it took me a second to get past the long elf-like hair. But once I kind of got used to it and it settled in, I actually was drawn to what exactly his character is up to. So it's pretty cool, and I'm sure Stu's going to mention a lot of the kind of like the subtle things, like at one point the king sits on the throne and cuts his hand, and then like I'm sure that's some type of foreshadow that he's not able to wield this iron throne. I did like those elements too.
The books, they describe Prince Daemon Targaryen as the brightest of bright and the darkest of dark. Like he is affable, charismatic. You can see why people follow him, and he's just like, he'd be the best guy to have a beer with. And at the same time, as you can see, if you cross him, what kind of person he would be.
He goes from, he brings the necklace to the girl Reyes or whatever her name was, and then later on he's sitting on the throne, kind of just casually chilling on it. He didn't cut himself or anything on it, so I'm sure that's like some type of foreshadowing.
It is the Targaryen who created that chair tried to make it as uncomfortable as possible. And to your point, it is a bad omen.
He's just chilling in it. He's just like, oh, this is nice.
It is a bad omen. To your point, John, like Heavy that wears the crown. It's one of those things where it's the second time he cut himself, because as you know on the show, he cut himself on
Did he?
the back.
Is that the wound in his back from the throne?
That it never really healed, and the second time was the hand on the right hand.
Wear some armor.
And as you eloquently saw, when Aegon sat there, he knew explicitly to lean to the left and to be comfortable there, to not to do it, where his brother leans to the right and cuts himself. So it is one of those things where the symmetry of it, even when he's sitting at the table, like the king sitting there, and on his left is Aegon Targaryen saying to him, who's the weak point, who is stabbing him along quietly throughout this situation. So it is leading to the fact that there's going to be a split. And like many mafioso films, John, that you've watched, it's not the outside that tears the family apart, it's the inside. So this is what to kind of expect.
For those who are watching on YouTube, that analogy just went right over John's head, because I haven't seen any mafioso movies. I don't know what you're talking about.
We got to get him to watch The Godfather.
Godfather's on the list. It's on the list.
Yeah, they'll watch The Godfather.
But if you guys really got to rewind about 22 seconds at this point, you'll see John go.
Yeah.
There was a lot of dragons in this episode.
A lot of dragons, a lot of foreshadowing about power. Because again, there's a lot of saying that the falsehood of the dragons being the source of power, and people just believe it, and that's what's necessary to kind of rule Westeros. Yeah. So it is, the king knows. But
what do you guys think the dragon smells like? It came up a couple of times in the episode where they're like, "Oh, you just came in from riding a dragon. You didn't wash up or something." You're like, "What does it smell like to ride a dragon?"
It's pretty much probably like sulfur. It's like what you think of like when you smell a demon. It's a lot of just like sulfur / fire /
it's like working in a fireworks factory.
Yeah, like it's gotta be
like all dressed chips.
Sulfur and a dash of all dressed chips. Yes.
Yeah.
Rob, give us your thoughts, because again, you watched a lot of the show. Give us your spoilery moments of this.
Yeah, so first of all, listen, I thought Matt Smith did a fantastic job as Prince Lothar from Voltron. It was like a dead ringer. If they ever do a live action Voltron movie, get that guy. It's funny. So throughout the course of the show, like I said to you guys at the beginning, I felt like it was a sense of familiarity, and yet it's a whole new, house, and I'm, kind of feeling it all out. But then it starts to kind of fall onto its laurels of the brutality, the gore, the rawness of that world, in which you, weirdly enough, are like, holy shit, I kind of missed this, right? And maybe it sounds
you
like
are effed, man.
Psychopath. No, but because you know what is that it doesn't feel like gore for gore's sake. It just feels right for this show. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, we've seen a lot of action movies that are over the top action and gore for just for the hell of it, for shock value. But for these shows, it, like for the first series, it was a consistent level, not to shock you. They didn't go over the top. It was just like, hey, this is what it is, right? And we're not dropping the ball. We're not going to pull back or whatever. And so, admittedly, when Matt Smith's character, Damon, I think, right? He gets knocked down. I was like, this guy's dead. I thought for sure he was going to be one of those bait and switches. You've been seeing him in the promos and he's out. But no, because I don't obviously know the books. He obviously he yielded to the guy we're looking at here with the ladybug armor and live to fight another day. So, I thought that was like a pretty interesting. Admittedly, I was also waiting for the big drop, no pun intended, from the end of season 1, episode 1. Kind of like, okay, what's going to happen? What's like the shock? And they didn't really have that cliffhanger. But then I was like, wasn't disappointed by it. I was like, okay, fine. It is what it is. It's its own thing. I did like, though, that the king was explaining to his daughter about the history and saying, like, only a few people know this information. And he says, like, the same person who had the dreams of their homeland burning also had a dream, foretelling of a great winter coming from the north. And admittedly, Stu, I was like, oh man, don't tell me we're dealing with another, series of White Walkers and this and that. No, apparently not. I had to go. I checked out some articles afterwards, and it was just that still happens. Wayne, it's not like a repetitious thing. So I'm like, okay.
No. It's one of those things where just like the ancestor said, where it's like, oh, it's happening. It didn't happen the moment you had that dream. It happened 12 years after.
Yeah.
This is one of those things where it's true. You need, kind of like in Star Wars, the analogy was the Emperor was there to galvanize the universe as one force to fight off another force that was coming. Just people didn't know. The Emperor knew that the galaxy had to be united to fight off another race of beings that were coming to attack that galaxy. So for them, the same Targaryen situation is, we don't know what these potential things are, but we do know we need one leader to command the entire resources in case of this threat that arises, whether it's from Easteros or from out from the north. And that's one of those things where there's a now shout out the end with Rickon Stark. I'm like, oh, there's Rickon to as the steward of the north, to just kind of remind people that this is a very big island, big country. So there are a lot of people involved. Even when they said they invited 1,000 lords together to that old city to like talk about the coronation of the new king. So it is one of those things where, Rob, to your point, it's foreshadowing potentially it, but they could all be in 9. It's like, oh yeah, we did it, but you know what? Nothing came. It's one of those things where you plan for something, and like that bit in The Simpsons, you all made fun of me for planning and trying this stuff, but here it is, elephant storming the peanut facility. What do we do? Like, we've been training all for this. So it's one of those random things.
I think one of the biggest things for me is that, like, I could go on about the specific scenes and this and that. And listen, if you've already seen the show, you know what scenes we're all talking about. John's mentioned them and this and that. For me, though, like the dialogue, like the girl who plays, who would now be the future queen, I can't remember her name, Rhaenyra, I think.
Yeah,
like she's phenomenal. I don't know how old she is in real life, but I think she's in her early teens, whatever. But she did a fantastic job. Yeah, carrying that, like. She has a sense of maturity to her in that role. And for me,
she's 30, Rob. She's
what?
30.
Shut up. She's 30.
Yep.
Well,
I'm like, yeah, you
16.
No. But she is. She prefers to be referred to as they and them because she is non-binary. So
apologies. Okay,
them.
I
didn't realize that.
But they did a fantastic job.
Yeah.
What this show has done for me, though, is it has set up a sense of excitement for what is to come. Because I think back to those earlier seasons and you didn't know about Joffrey, you didn't know about all of these characters,
Joffrey, the most
and
hated man on the internet.
No, but in all of these situations that would come up, right? And so the promise or anticipation of what is going to be coming in this series has got me really excited. So
to your point, I'm excited because I don't know what's going to happen in the show and the characters outside of the book. I haven't read the book, so I kind of also don't want to fool myself into reading that book and understanding the differences. But I do appreciate the fact that outside of like the big houses, because if you watch the jousting thing, John, that you mentioned, you saw, the Lannisters, House Stark, you saw House Baratheon, you saw
all the flags.
You saw all the heavy hitters of all these houses that pretty much have been there and have survived. So it's not like I'm going to see too many of. I will see maybe people from their houses die, but it's not like I'm like, oh man, they're going to wipe out the Starks. Spoiler alert, they're gonna wipe out the Targaryens, or they're gonna wipe out the the Baratheons or the Lannisters. So it is kind of one of those things where I'm like, they can do stuff, but it won't be too much. And even House Dorne, I was like, oh, Dorne's there. I never saw that really in the Game of Thrones, but there is a very large family tree of the Targaryens, just like in the other thing, John. So again, for you, maybe it makes sense, but the Mad King is another thing that pops. So So as you can see, this is there are a lot of relatives involved, and you can see already based on the slide that you're showing, John, that there will be additional people cast, and this would lead to some conflict between the families, and thus the mentioned 10 adult dragons. By the end, there may only be one. Yeah. So it's like in Highlander.
By the way, the actress who plays Rihanna is 22. She's not 30.
No, she's 30.
No, she's not. I just checked out her Wikipedia page. 22.
It says 30.
Oh, it does it. I'm looking at it. Born in 2000. Sydney, Australia.
It says 1992.
What the hell are you talking about?
All right. Anyways, yeah. So let's keep. All right, John. So you're excited to watch this. Rob, you are excited to watch this. So yeah, I think there's a lot of good opportunities for us to see what goes on. I being a huge like you Doctor Who fan, I'm waiting for more opportunities for Matt Smith to be awesome. Yep. So I will take it.
I'm sure he's coming back, right? He leaves at the end of this episode.
Yeah, no, yeah, he'll no,
he'll be back. You know, he's playing a very listen. You saw the, you know, this season on House of the Dragon. He's obviously very prominently. Yep. It is nice though, like to digress a little bit about Matt Smith. You know, John knows him from stupid shit, but if you're a Doctor Who fan or even a House of Cards fan,
how dare you crap talk Terminator Genesis
and Morbius. But if you're a House
you can crap talk Morbius all you want.
If you're a House of Cards fan, like you know he played Prince Philip. The guy's a phenomenal actor, right? Yep. And so this is a pretty cool turn for him, and I think that I'm excited to see where he goes with this.
I think it's going to give him a lot of opportunity. I think Matt Smith, we know the joy he can play being the Doctor, both plus and negative. He can do responses. I think, unfortunately for him, he hasn't had the opportunity to really get a part that can help. And now this is kind of a juicy opportunity, a role for him to really, again, the highs are highs and lows and low with this character. So I'm excited to see what happens. Maybe a little too much Matt Smith for that I was comfortable seeing, but it was,
yeah. Hey, bro, just do a few push-ups or something, man.
He didn't. He is kind of just like our Batman. He's like, I don't have to do any. I don't have to do the steps or lifting. It's
I don't need to see that sonic screwdriver. Just
not about lifting weights.
He did some sonic screwdriving.
Hey, do we want to do a guess as to which one of these characters will die by the end of the
Jesus.
I think we know already. I think we know the only one that survives is the Queen. So because it was her voice at the beginning of the show. So
no, it'll be the end of this season.
Oh, man! Shoutouts. I think it's gonna be shoutouts to my boy Graham McTavish. John and I know him from the Creed movie as the manager of Ricky. John, you know what I'm talking about. He plays the head knight of the guard. I don't know if he's going to survive the show, but when you see him, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Graham McTavish. Are you looking at the picture, John?
I don't know.
Sorry, I know who you're talking about.
John, do you see it?
I don't see him. He must be extra cast, right?
No. Just right. Graham McTavish. He was in a small movie.
Right there, John. Right there. You scroll past him.
Yeah.
Right there, on the left.
Oh, here.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah. This guy. Yeah.
He was in a little movie called. Go to the picture of the knight on the far end. Go picture the knight. Go, look at him. Damn it.
No, never.
Click on the. Jeez, this guy from Creed, who plays Tommy Holiday, where he was yelling at Pretty Ricky. He was like, "You ruined your chance when you took a gun and shot the guy in public. You're fighting that guy, and I'm gonna make sure that you fight." That was the whole Pretty Ricky Conlon, right?
Well,
John's like, I don't remember.
John has no clue what's happening.
John has no. John doesn't.
Are we recording what's happening? I think
we watched that in the theater together, John. Jeez,
that was a long time ago. I haven't watched it a second time.
You haven't watched Creed a second time? I've seen that movie
No.
like 5 times.
Yeah, I got to get on that.
Is also nothing to be overly proud about. Anyway,
Creed is a good
Creed is
film.
good.
man.
varies. I think the king will be gone for sure by the end of this season.
No, I think he survives.
How? He's totally gonna get killed by the brother.
He won't get killed right away. He'll get killed like when you least expect it, season 2. But like, oh, yeah, he's kind of around because he's gonna support his daughter's claim to the throne. So he'll kind of be there to help her. I can't imagine that.
We need Sean Bean because then you know for sure somebody he's out.
Sean Bean has his own problems. I don't think he's gonna be cast for a while. He's in a little bit of trouble. It's as they say, Rob. It takes away from the moment of the situation. So you can't be. What did he say? You can't be spontaneous, and that's
right. Yes,
right.
now I know what you're referring to.
Yeah, that's probably what you don't want.
Yeah, the intimacy coordinators on set. That's right.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, John. All right, tell us where we can find you on the internets and the desert of the real.
Yeah, so everybody, if you're not following us on our socials, Heroes World Online on the Instagram, Facebook, very active on there. So if you need anything, you can message us through those means, comment on pictures, and check out all the new stuff we're getting in. If you are listening to us on the audio, Heroes World Podcast on the iTunes, Spotify, I choose Spotify for all my podcast delivery methods. So check us out there. Links are all going to be in the description. And then if you want to check us out in the Desert of the Real, 8601 Warden Avenue in Markham, Ontario. Lots and lots of stuff in shop. So if you want to see some cool stuff, come on by. I'm all out of Jon Snow swords right now, so I can't help you out there. But maybe we'll get some
Long
new product.
Claw. Maybe you can order some.
Claws.
Now you know what it's called.
He's gonna order a case of White Claw and get really confused.
And put it on the wall. But yeah, hit us up there. We'd love to chat with you. Thank you everybody for always sharing and participating and watching and supporting us. It's been a really fun ride.
Rob, what's going on Sidekick Show?
Yeah, so actually I was off this past Monday. So John and his brother Chris, they filled in, and it was a fun show. So we took what was supposed to happen last week. We're pushing it ahead to this Monday. So 8:15 p.m. live on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. John and I are going and checking out the most recent Jamie Foxx movie, Day Shift. Is what's it called?
Yes,
it is
exactly.
Okay. I still haven't watched it yet, but
I thought that was a bit. You're like Day Shift, DOGG. I'm like, yeah, Snoop Dogg is in it. Yes, carry
okay,
on.
cool. So we were checking out Day Shift. If you want to watch it, by all means, it's on Netflix and you can check it out. And then join John and I Monday night live, 8:15 p.m. on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us today. Hopefully you have a great day. Please comment below, like, subscribe, do all those things. Let us know your thoughts on this episode of House of the Dragon. Are you going to watch more? Are you going to watch another season? I think we will all agree with the three of us. We're going to do it. We're going to finish it. And we'll
we're going to finish it, and we're probably going to compare it to the Lord of the Rings show coming out in September.
We'll come back at the end. I think we've discussed amongst the enlightened here, the Meisters, as you would say, that I think we like doing episode 1 and maybe doing a wrap up at the end of the season. So I think we might just do that. There's so much content going on. It makes sense for us to do episode 1 and then a wrap up at the end. So we'll come back at the end of this show, just like the end of She-Hulk, just like some of the other ones, to give our thoughts and comments and let you know. So that's what we're thinking of. If you don't like that, let us know. All right, everyone. See you later. Bye.
Episode basis. Let us know. Thank you, everybody. Thanks.